Hey, I'm Kristin,
And I'm Ashley.
and this is Locked in a Closet.
Join us as we tell each other stories of true crime, the paranormal, urban legends, and all things spooky. Hey, welcome back, everybody.
Hey.
So, what's new in this quarantine world?
Oh, avoiding windows. Not gonna look outside anymore since the last episode.
After that alien episode, I definitely don't like looking. I never liked looking at windows at night, but
I know. I just looked outside for a while. I hate it so much.
I know I need to move my podcast setup because I'm still facing that same window and I'm still getting
Yeah, it's bad. We're just gonna have to build a whole studio.
Yeah.
What's new with you?
Oh, just the biggest news of my life.
Oh, yeah. What is it?
I can finally announce that I'm pregnant.
Yay!
Yeah. So, that week or so in Christmas that we missed was entirely my fault because
No.
I could not stop throwing up.
You just had a good excuse. I did not.
You were moving, so that's also a great excuse. Yeah, we were a hot mess and couldn't tell. Well, they say you can tell anyone at any time, but sometimes. I didn't feel like I didn't want to tell anyone yet that time.
It's so exciting. Yeah. I'm so excited for you.
I'm in my second trimester, which is crazy.
It's really flying, eh? I don't remember when you told me. It was a while ago, though.
Yeah, honestly, I thought I was like 9 months. That's a long time, and now I'm just like, I only have 6 months to go, or whatever the math is now. Like,
so crazy.
Yeah, and I'm still in denial. I'm like getting fatter and fatter. I'm like, it's not real.
One of the presents that I bought for you for the baby came today. And I was going to wait, but I have to show you because it's so funny. And it's related to the podcast also. Give me 1 second.
Oh, I cannot wait.
I got this book.
Oh my God. Okay, it says Little Bigfoot Hide and Seek. That's so perfect.
It's the cutest thing. It's just it's little Bigfoot going about its day and it's hiding places. It's so cute.
My baby's going to be a little believer.
That's the goal.
That's amazing.
Yeah, so that one came today. So I was like, well, it's perfect that we're recording because I need to show
her.
I can't wait.
I know it's been so hard to not bring it up. I've definitely brought it up and then I go, oh, can you edit that out?
Yeah, we just edited it there.
Yeah. I can't tell anybody. God, I swear to God, when we recorded the ghost episode, I had to pee every 5 minutes. I was like, I'm sorry, I gotta go. Yeah.
That's so exciting though. Yeah. I can't wait.
I'm sorry. I bought my
COVID to be over so I can meet the baby.
I know. Part of me is good, no one's gonna see me ginormous. But then also I'm not seeing anybody and it's so isolating and
yeah.
One of my biggest pet peeves, especially with COVID and people not wearing masks and stuff and just being rude, but right now I guess bars aren't open, but bars were open and lots of things are open that shouldn't be open, and then my husband can't come to any of the ultrasounds, any of the appointments. I feel like I'm just doing it alone, which is hard.
Yeah.
Especially it's been a lot of blood tests and I am so squeamish. I honestly don't know how I'm going to give birth because
you don't have to look.
A blood test makes me pass out, but yeah. It's been tough. So wear a fucking mask so that I don't feel like a single mom.
Yeah. Yeah, that would be tough, especially for your first time around. I can't even imagine. I would want Michael there for all of the exciting stuff.
Yeah, the first round of ultrasounds, obviously I got pictures and video, but it's just he's missing out on that experience too. He gets to see it after, but he doesn't get to hear the heartbeat or be in the room at the moment. I think sometimes he feels like it's not real either.
Yeah, because he hasn't actually seen it.
Yeah.
Has he can you FaceTime him or?
I'm gonna do that next time.
Yeah.
I had an appointment last Thursday when we had that big snowstorm, and he was working, but I was like, I don't feel comfortable driving in this. It was bad. So he actually drove me there, but he was in a meeting. Oh. So he just had the meeting playing over the Bluetooth of the car, and I was just on my phone.
Silent.
Yeah, he was muted, but so I couldn't FaceTime him then because he was in a meeting, but
Yeah.
He drove me, which was great. And like on the way, we saw like 3 cars in the ditch. So
that's
I was
so
grateful
scary.
he drove. Yeah.
I hate driving and seeing a bunch of cars in the ditch. We went to the zoo to visit Michael's parents. I don't even remember what year it was. Probably 2018 in November.
Oh, wow.
And we like rounded one corner because it's just highway or 417 the whole way.
Okay.
And we rounded a corner and there was like a massive transport truck like upside down in the ditch. So I was like, oh my God, I can't drive anymore.
Yeah. I mean, I'm I probably would have been fine. Like I drive slow and careful, but it's just like, I was so scared. I'm like, what if I get in the ditch? Like,
you got precious cargo.
Yeah. I was like, I can't just deal with that.
Yeah. That's so exciting. I'm so excited for you guys.
I'm excited. I'm nervous. I haven't bought anything because it's just part of me feels like if I get too excited, it's gonna get taken away. So
no.
But I bought some baby shoes because I'm gonna take a picture of like our dogs of their paws and then the baby shoes.
Cute.
And that's the announcement that I'm gonna post pretty soon. So
yeah,
that was the first baby thing I bought. And it was just
so
like
exciting.
I hope
I have so many plans to do DIY things. I just need to order them and send them to you.
I know, and that's another thing is like I really want to get started on like the nursery room.
Mm-hmm.
And I have this like really cute mural I want to paint. I think I showed it to you of like the mountains.
Yeah.
And like Home Depot's like closed, and I want to go in and pick like color swatches and stuff.
Yeah.
And like, so who knows if that's gonna happen now?
Hopefully soon.
Yeah.
Yeah. Who knows?
My little Corin baby. I like what the people are calling that this generation of like baby boom essentially is gonna be called like the quarantines or there's a couple other ones like I can't remember, but quarantines is the one that stuck with me the most.
That's a good one. I like that a lot.
Also, I saw something today, a tweet where it was just like the Zoomer generation, because like Gen Z, everyone just calls them Zoomers, going to school with Zoom. So I think there's gonna be like a whole group of people that are gonna think that like Zoomers were called Zoomers because of Zoom. Yeah.
Which honestly the marketing is great, but
yeah, they were smart.
Yeah.
Honestly, good for Zoom because like there were so many other video messaging services available, and then somehow Zoom just took over in a year. Like Skype has existed since I was a teenager. And everyone's like, fuck Skype.
I never really liked Skype that much. Like I used it a couple times when I was in high school and stuff, but I find Zoom is just so easy to use.
Yeah. I mean, my friends and I actually just used to use MSN.
Oh yeah.
At one point they had video messaging, and I guess that's what Skype became.
Yeah.
And then even Facebook has a pretty decent, like if I do group calls with my friends, we'll just do it on Facebook. Like,
Snapchat too. If it's just like one-on-one, you can do Snapchat like FaceTime.
Oh, you're right. I've accidentally like FaceTime.
Yeah, my niece
people.
does that to me a lot, and then I call her back because it's usually when I'm working, and I'm like, I missed it, and she answers. She goes, "Oh, I didn't mean to call you." I'm like, oh, "Okay, love you too."
Like, just want to say hi.
Yeah, it's crazy. It's just
I used to have this one phone, and I don't know why it would always unlock like in my pocket, and luckily it was always to this one specific friend, because I think it was like her and I would always be, she'd be like my most active message on like Facebook, so it would always be her messaging, and I would always accidentally leave voice memos because like I don't know, my phone would just like turn on
minutes long.
And like for the longest time though, like she would get so freaked out because it happened a lot while I was in yoga, so it would just be like quiet like whispering of like people in the room being like
oh my God.
And then I obviously like didn't know what was happening, and then like later on she'd like message me and be like, "Are you okay? Like what was that?" And I'm like, "What are you talking about?" I'm like, "Oh fuck, I sent you a 15-minute long voice memo of like indescriptible like chatter."
That's
whispers.
So funny. I used to love when you said sometimes your phone would just open randomly. Did you remember the days of when your phone would accidentally open the internet? You'd have to be like, "Oh my God, no."
My God.
It happened
and you're
all
like
the time.
Prayed to Jesus that you're like, "Please don't charge me. It didn't load.
Yeah. And now you're just like, "Oh, I'll just go on my 20 gigs of data. It's fine."
I'll just turn my Wi-Fi off. It doesn't matter.
Yeah, it's too slow.
Yeah. For these kids out there, it used to cost us 10 cents per text message.
And for each letter, you'd have to hit it 3 times. I was so fast at texting on that.
God.
Oh my God.
I could do it with my, like, I used to have, like, obviously when I was working retail, I didn't have a smartphone until fucking 2014.
Mm-hmm.
And I used to be able to have my phone at my till because I was a cashier, and I could text without looking.
Oh yeah, I would text all the time.
I'd be like,
in
scan,
class.
yeah, in class too, and just be like, because you knew where the buttons were, you knew how many times. Now you could, if you're like, what was letter 5? What were the numbers on 5? I'd be like, couldn't tell you.
No idea. Honestly, probably back then, like I couldn't even tell you when I was using that because I never looked. I would just always like.
I was always so jealous of those people that had like the sidekicks when they had the full keyboard, or like the BlackBerry
board. Yeah. I ended up getting it was like an LG something, and it was great. I loved it. It had like the slide texting thing.
I never got one.
After like 6 months, every time I would slide it open, it would turn my phone off every single time. It was so annoying. I honestly threw that phone so many times because I was like, nope.
Yeah, kids these days will never know the satisfaction of slamming your flip phone
when you're angry,
or slamming the slide part.
Yeah. It was the best.
Yeah.
Now it's just like throw your phone and break your screen.
You just tap your screen really hard if they don't hear it because it's already hung up.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
What a world.
Makes me wonder what's next. What's next for technology?
I don't want to know, honestly.
Yeah. So I guess we can stop talking about
technology. Talk about murder.
Yeah, exactly. One sad story to the next.
Yep. This one's slightly sadder.
Yeah.
Do you want to go first?
Yeah, I think you went first last week. So
hey.
So I got my story. I think I mentioned last episode that I've just been binging like true crime like crazy. Been going through a phase. Actually, did you finish watching the Night Stalker documentary on Netflix, the new one?
No, we haven't yet.
Oh, I went and watched. I actually had to watch it twice because being pregnant, I'm so tired all the time. The first time I watched it, I slept through 2 episodes, and it's not because it's boring. It's just because literally I'm so tired.
Mm-hmm.
So I went back and rewatched it all from the beginning, and it is so good. I think they did a really great job because they really did focus mostly on like the victims, and you know, he was literally in the last episode, like his stuff. But there was, I mean, it didn't really tell me much more than I already knew about that case, because that was one of the cases that I was really like obsessed with and learned a lot about. But I thought it was really interesting, and I did learn some new things. But
I need to finish it still. I am much more into that kind of stuff than Michael is, and we started watching that together. So he's not like every night. He doesn't really want to watch true crime stuff.
Yeah,
but I'm just like,
I don't watch that stuff with Jeff. Like, he doesn't like it, but it's fine because, like, you know, we'll have our dinner, we'll watch like the shows that we do watch together, and then he just goes and plays like League of Legends, and
and you get to watch whatever you want.
Yeah, exactly. It works out really well.
That's good.
So this came from an episode that, because Canadian Amazon Prime, they are like the best for like just the most random true crime documentary series.
There's some good ones.
Yeah, I think I've almost watched all of them now. And it's funny because I've seen so many that I start to recognize like when they start telling the same story that I've seen on a different one. And I'm like, oh, that's the story where this girl, but then it's like they tell obviously with like a different point of view, or like there's more information. So it's interesting. So this one comes from Canadian Amazon Prime, so I don't know if it's on American, but it's called Killer in Plain Sight, and it's episode 30 called A Crazed Killer. So that's where I got the majority of the information, and then of course Wikipedia, and then Murderpedia, because that's a great resource. So this is the story of Mark and Donnah Winger. So Mark and Donnah Winger were that like normal, typical all-American family. They lived in Springfield, Illinois, where Mark worked as a nuclear power plant technician. Like, does this not sound like I'm saying the plotline of like The Simpsons?
Yeah, absolutely. Just
Springfield nuclear power plant. I was just like, when I was doing the research, I was like, wait, what?
That can't be right.
Yeah, that's a real place and that's a real job. Like, so anyways, life had been great. They had been married for 6 years, and they had recently just adopted a baby girl named Bailey.
Maggie.
Yeah, since Maggie. Because Donna herself couldn't physically have her own children, so they ended up adopting. They both had great jobs. He was obviously like a nuclear power plant engineer, technician, whatever. And then she worked at a hospital. I think she was like a nurse. And then they had a nice house in the suburbs. But all that came crashing down on August 25th, 1995, as all these stories eventually do.
Mm-hmm.
So Mark was down in his basement working out in their home gym when he heard a noise coming from upstairs. He made his way upstairs and checked in on their new baby, thinking it might have been her fussing. With the baby being fine, he then heard the noises again coming from their dining room. Mark then grabbed his gun and went to investigate. He turned into the dining room to find the source of the noise. There he found a man hunched over his wife's body on the floor, beating her repeatedly with a hammer.
Oh my God.
Could you imagine walking in on something like that?
No.
There was a story on Reddit, which is very similar. And I want to say it was debunked, but I feel like people might have just been saying that, but it might have been fake. But there was like a story I read on Reddit where it was like a guy was talking. It was like in a thread, like, oh, people have killed somebody. Like, what's your story? And he was saying how he was playing video games and he had his headphones on. And obviously, like, I know when my husband's playing video games with his headphones on, like he's dead to the world. He can't hear anything.
Mm-hmm.
And he said there was like a pause in like the sound and he heard like something from downstairs. So he went to look and he found like a man had broken in and was like raping his wife.
Oh.
And he grabbed his gun and shot the guy. And that was the story on Reddit. But then people were saying it ended up being fake and there was like no news articles or whatever. So I hope it was fake because that sounds awful.
Even if that is fake, like that's definitely something that could easily happen.
Yeah.
Which is so scary.
Like, and that's what I was like freaked out. I was like, Jeff, you need to make sure you have check-ins on me. Like, because when he plays his games, like I could scream and he could not hear me.
Yeah.
So then Mark then shoots the man, hitting him in the head, and rushes to his wife's side and calls 911. Paramedics arrive and attempt to save the lives of both Donnah and the attacker. However, unfortunately, neither of them ended up surviving. The police identified Donnah's murderer as that of Roger Harrington. Roger Harrington was an airport shuttle driver who only days before drove Donnah home from the St. Louis International Airport.
Oh,
creepy, right?
Mm-hmm.
So Donnah had just returned home from a trip visiting with her parents and her newly adopted baby. The shuttle home was a grueling 90 minutes long where Roger apparently harassed Donnah the entire time. He drove recklessly while speeding, and he talked endlessly about getting high and having orgies in his home. And he would discuss things like out-of-body experiences and meeting God and just generally making Donnah extremely uncomfortable and scared. So one quote from a CBC News article says, he was telling Donnah that sometimes when he drives, this godlike character would come to him and pull him out of his body and he would be flying above the trees.
My God.
Imagine someone driving you, like your Uber driver saying that and you're like,
yeah,
I'll get out right here.
Yeah, I'll just walk.
Yeah. 0 stars.
Yeah.
So Donnah told Mark and like they, made Mark really mad. And so they both made a complaint to the Roger's boss at the shuttle company. But like now this man knows where they live. And like the complaints aren't probably anonymous. So a day or so after the complaint, Mark claimed that they started receiving anonymous calls where the caller would hang up without saying a word. He was certain it was Roger trying to seek some sort of revenge. So that's kind of creepy.
Mm-hmm.
Mark was completely torn up about the situation. Police noticed that he was keeled over crying, almost feeling guilty for what he had to do to protect his wife. And he was scared he would get in trouble for killing another person. However, the police hailed him as a hero. Mark admitted the hammer was his own, and it had been left out by his wife as a reminder to put up a hat rack that he had been neglecting to do. Which, like...
Oh my God, this poor man.
Right? Like
he probably felt so bad.
Both of us have husbands, so I feel like you can relate that, like, sometimes you need to, like, really nag them to do something.
Subtly nudge something towards them.
Yeah. Like, sometimes I feel like I need to start the damn project just for him to be like, fine, I'll start it. Like, so, like, that's such a plausible story for them to have that out.
Yeah.
So the investigation basically confirmed Mark's story. Mark claimed that Donnah was on her knees on the floor and her attacker was leaning over her, attacking her with the hammer. Roger looked up and noticed Mark was there, and that's when Mark shot him. Roger then fell on Donnah and then rolled onto his back. So there was an outpouring of support for both Mark and Donna's family from the community. Basically, they hailed him as a hero and they felt really bad for him because he had just lost his wife and they had just adopted a new baby. However, not everyone was convinced of the story that Mark told. So Detective Doug Williamson, he He started to find little inconsistencies in the case that made him doubt the guilt of the shuttle driver, Roger Harrington. And then Harrington's family, too, also insisted on his innocence. And his family would call the police station like monthly to be like, you need to keep looking into this. Like, he's not a murderer. He's innocent. But like, I guess Harrington had been known to the police previously for like mild domestic abuse kind of claims and just other kind of things. So the police kind of knew him, and it didn't seem super like inconsistent. So some of the immediate issues that the detective Doug Williamson pointed out were that there was no forced entry into the house. He had doubted that Donnah would have let the same man in that she feared and had made a complaint about, which, like, fair. I don't answer the door for literally anybody.
Yeah.
Yeah, let alone let people in the house.
Yeah.
It was also noted that Roger's car was parked right in front of the family home, which, if you're going to be like committing a murder, seems a bit silly to just park in the driveway.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, people are going to see you, be able to ID your car or whatever.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah. And there was also a piece of paper left on the front seat that had Mark Winger's name, his address, as well as the time of 4:30 p.m. written on it. So they kind of speculated it almost seemed like an appointment was made. Mark denied ever talking to or meeting Roger. The only experience he had with him was complaining to his manager, and he had no idea what the paper was about. Detective Doug Williamson wanted to investigate further, but was denied, and the case was closed. So Mark then visits the detectives that were assigned to his case a few times throughout the next couple of years. At one point, he asks for his gun back, which, they gave it to him because they're like, yeah, you're a hero. Here's your gun. And one time he just went and visited to tell him that he was getting remarried. So they thought it was kind of odd that he just would keep popping in. They almost thought, they described it as they started to suspect that he was checking in to make sure they didn't reopen the case. Because he would go in and he would ask, how's the case going? And they're like, still closed. Why are you asking? Yeah.
Weird.
Yeah. So then about 3 years later, after the case was closed, they received a call that completely changed everything. So Donna's best friend, Deanne Schultz, admitted to the police that she and Mark had been having an affair that began a month before Donna's murder and continued for several months after. She claimed Mark told her he wanted out of his marriage so badly he talked about killing Donnah. He mentioned that it would just be easier if Donnah died, Deanna claimed.
Oh my God.
Yeah. First of all, don't have affairs, don't cheat. Just, point blank. And then also don't say shit like that. That'd be the first thing if God forbid I ever had an affair, or if I was single and had an affair with a married man, and he said that, I'd be like, I'm out.
Yeah, you're probably a killer.
Yeah, that is the creepiest thing. Also, just gonna say, if they're gonna cheat with you, they're gonna cheat on you.
100%. Yeah.
Little teaser. But yeah, but I mean, she was just so in love with him apparently. So Deanne then admits Mark told her about Roger Harrington, the unhinged shuttle driver, and how he would also make the perfect fall guy for the crime, but then elaborated no further. Yeah. Deanne, however, was so in love with Mark and basically said she was blinded by it, that she was kind of in denial and just kind of couldn't even fathom that he would have anything to do with Donna's murder, even though it fucking said.
You could be in love with anybody if they start telling you I could kill this person and blame it on this person.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe.
I mean, I've said some wild things, but
I mean, not plain. Oh.
Yeah, and then but then it actually happened. That would make me a little suspicious.
Yeah.
So one day, Mark suddenly calls off their affair, leaving Deanne in the dust. So just one day out of the blue, he's like, "We're over." And she's like, okay, and then he goes on shortly after to marry the nanny he had hired to help him take care of his adopted daughter, Bailey. So clearly, like I said, he was already cheating on her with the nanny.
Sorry, were they married or
no? So they were just having, okay. She was married, and then, so she was also having an affair on her husband.
Okay.
But she wanted out of her marriage and stuff too, but then he just called it off and then married his nanny.
Okay.
Yeah. So burdened by the guilt she had for not only having an affair with her best friend's husband, which like, bitch, I'd kill you. She slowly came to the realization that Mark did in fact have something to do with her death. Wow. Slowly? You slowly came to that realization.
Yeah. Yikes.
I guess denial is a hell of a drug.
Yeah.
Yeah. So she fell into a really deep depression over it. She attempted suicide, which is awful. However, she managed to get her life in order, and this confession was the last thing standing in her way. So her confession got the case reopened. So for 2 more years, the detectives gathered up what evidence they could, because the case had been shut. So I think at that point, the evidence gets lost. So they had some old photos that were, I guess one of the detectives had it on a Polaroid that were originally not really looked over. And so in these photos, it's noticed that Roger's body is actually in a completely different position than Mark had originally described in his story. Ooh. That was a big clue that was either originally missed or just ignored. Roger's clothes also didn't contain any of Donna's blood on them. For a man, you know, so I said, like,
her with it.
Yes, and Mark's clothes did, which, you know, if you're, that's another thing though, if you're gonna like, he probably held her, so that would explain blood on his clothes. But like, I think everyone that's obsessed with true crime, like us, we kind of know a thing or two about when you bludgeon someone to death and blood splatter. Yeah. So Roger's shirt should have been absolutely covered in blood. So with this new evidence, they suspected that Mark had actually called Roger to set up an appointment to lure him to the house. So this explains why he's parked right out front. He has that slip of paper with Mark's name and address and that time. They suspect Mark invited Roger in and promptly shot him in the head in the dining room. When Donna runs in to investigate the gunshot, Mark then proceeds to beat her to death with the hammer.
Oh my God.
Then he puts on the show for the police and is hailed a hero for years while cashing in on Donna's life insurance money. So on August 23rd, 2001, Mark is finally arrested for the murder of both his wife and Donnah Winger, or both his wife, Donnah Winger, and the shuttle driver, Roger Harrington. So he's sentenced to life in prison, which I saw a TikTok the other day, which made me chuckle because I realized I thought the same thing. Life in prison is not the same as what I think it is in my head. So the TikTok was just like, I thought that when someone was sentenced to like three life sentences, it was just for like dramatic effect. But like life in prison's like, what is it, 30 years or something?
Yeah,
it's not a lot. Like it, for me, I think that life in prison should mean like you die in prison.
Yeah.
Like you stay there till you're dead.
Yeah.
But that's not what that means. So this made me chuckle because in my head, and I love true crime and I know a lot about it, but I still think that life in prison is life in prison.
Yeah. Which it should be.
It should be. It really should be.
Just call it something else.
Yeah. 30 years or whatever the years work out to be.
Yeah.
So he's sentenced to life in prison. So in 2005, a fellow inmate tells police that Mark tried to involve him in a murder for hire plot to murder his ex-mistress, Deanne Schultz. He basically wanted whoever he hired to make her record a message saying everything she said about Mark was a lie. And he wanted basically like only her fingerprints on the tape recorder. Like they wanted her handwritten suicide letter. Because then they wanted to make it look like a suicide. And so Mark was then brought to trial for this, and he claims he wasn't actually serious and it was just a fantasy.
That's not funny.
It's a thorough fantasy, dude. Like,
yeah.
So then he was found guilty again for that and sentenced to another 35 years in prison. Thank God.
My God.
Yeah. So that's a horrible story about how one man almost got away with a double murder for years, but thankfully someone had a conscience and put the right man behind bars.
How did they not notice that he had no blood on his clothes the first time around?
Right? So much of the story, like
especially because he said that he shot him and then he fell on his wife's body. Like he would obviously have a ton of blood on his clothes.
I don't get why. I mean, I get it. So like kind of in talking about the Night Stalker documentary, and it is easy to be like, how come they didn't do this? How did they not see this? And then the Night Stalker documentary actually kind of reveals how just exhausting it is to be like a detective.
Mm-hmm.
And like, they still have families and they never get to really see them. And they are plagued by these cases. And then it's not just that case that they're working on. They've got, more pile in all the time.
Yeah.
So it is easy to be like, why did you guys fuck up so bad? But the police are super overworked in that case.
Mm-hmm.
But like, yeah, I have a hard time with this one.
Like, they just like a pretty obvious.
They just took this man's words. So like, he thought he had orchestrated the perfect crime, which like he almost did.
Just about, yeah.
Yeah.
Holy.
Yeah.
That's
I feel
crazy.
like, when did I say this happened? 1995. So like, I feel like things have gotten more, especially too, because everyone always suspects the husband. So like, why wasn't he immediately like, this looks good, but maybe we should check into this?
Yeah. Holy, that's ridiculous.
But yeah. And the sad thing is that one detective, he had a gut feeling. He knew it didn't seem right. And he kept trying to get the case reopened, but all his like coworkers, his partner, like his higher ups were like, just let it go. Where it's cool. And I feel like that happens a lot because they just want the case to be closed. They don't want open cases.
Yeah. Yikes.
So yeah, I remember watching that episode and just being like dumbfounded. I remember writing that his name, Mark Winger, down in my notes because I was like, I'm covering this because this is wild. Like how he almost got away with murder and framed a poor guy. Someone brought up the point that this poor man got buried, like the shuttle driver, Roger Harrington, he got buried as a murderer. Like his family thought he was a murderer and like,
Yeah, that's so sad.
Yeah. So I hope like reparations have been made for his family in that way. Like I hope they don't feel guilty because, that's what the police told them.
I wonder if the complaints were actually real about him.
Yeah, I wonder too. Like,
or if like he just made it up to make him seem like he was crazy.
Yeah. Oh, it's true. Like, although it did say he was known to the police for being a little bit like off his rocker.
Okay.
So it might have been true, but you're right. Maybe that like Mark was like orchestrating this from the beginning. But
yeah,
I think it might have just been like the guy was a little crazy and Mark went, oh my God, this is the perfect.
Yeah. Yikes. Poor guy. Okay, so I am doing, well, I don't want to tell you exactly what it is, but I'm doing a crime it happened in Ryerson Township.
Where is that?
It's super close to Berks Falls, Ontario.
Berks Falls.
Where is that? It's 30 minutes from Huntsville.
You were just saying things to me right now.
Huntsville is where I stopped because I've been to Huntsville.
Oh, okay.
There's a resort called the Deerhurst Resort in Gravenhurst, and it's right by Huntsville.
Oh, okay. So it's kind of like south of North Bay.
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
I also drove through there a couple years ago because there was really bad flooding, so I couldn't go my normal way home from the zoo.
I'm still learning Ontario's geography.
Yeah. Okay, so real quick, the sources that I found on this, there are not very many that I could find on this. I could only really find like the news reporting things from it. There was one really good article from the Globe and Mail on it though. So I used mostly that and then also CTV News. This isn't even like on Murderpedia or anything. Like it's
is it really recent?
Tiny. Yeah, it's from 2018.
Oh wow. Okay, that definitely explains it.
Yeah, so super small town in Canada. Here we go. Okay, so on February 23rd, 2018, on her way home from work, Julia Conway stopped at her boyfriend's grandmother's house to drop off a coffee for her, as she did every Friday, which is adorable.
That is so sweet.
When she entered the house, all she could hear was the family dog Lily barking in the basement. So she just kind of assumed that everybody had gone to bed, just called an early night, and she was going to just leave the coffee on the grandmother's bedside table in case she woke up or she could have it in the morning, whatever.
Cold coffee.
Yeah, gross. So she went inside. She went downstairs to quiet the dog. And when she went down there, she found that the dog was like kind of pacing back and forth in front of a door. And she looked in the door and it was in the bathroom in the basement, and she found her 28-year-old boyfriend dead on the bathroom floor.
Oh my God.
His name was Paul Theoret. Theoret? I think is how you say it.
boyfriend?
He found her boyfriend dead on the bathroom floor. It gets worse. So she ran back up the stairs, and obviously because you'd be freaked out if you found your boyfriend's body.
Yeah.
And she discovered 2 more bodies. So Paul's 55-year-old mother, Ulla Theoret, she was dead on her bedroom floor. And his grandmother, 88-year-old Raija Turanen, I think is how you say it, Turanen, was also dead.
Oh my God.
So all 3 of them had been shot. So Julia ran to the kitchen to call 911 because it was like in the country and she had really bad cell service. So she was going to use the home phone. And she discovered another body in the kitchen.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Jesus Christ.
Yeah.
Poor woman.
I know. I feel so bad for her. Oh my God. So he was unrecognizable because he was shot in the face. So she called 911 and she waited for the police to show up, just like sitting in the kitchen looking at a dead body.
Oh my God. I would have sat outside.
Poor woman. Yeah.
Jesus.
As she was waiting, she realized that she did actually know who the man in the kitchen was, and it was the family's neighbor, Mark Jones.
Oh, the neighbor got involved. No.
Yeah. Okay, so just a little bit of background on the family. So Ulla, the mom, Ulla, U-L-L-A. I think it's
Ulla. Honestly, it could go either way.
Yeah, I'm not sure.
It's a pretty name though. I like that.
It's very pretty.
Yeah.
So she got married and she moved to Michigan. She was originally from Berks Falls area. She had 3 sons, Thomas, Paul, and Hans. They eventually made their way back to Canada because they enjoyed spending time with the grandparents, so Ulla's parents. I'm really sorry if I'm saying her name wrong.
Yeah.
And her parents were getting too old to take care of their farm on their own because they lived on like a pretty large piece of land and they were getting older. So in 2014, she and her husband divorced and he ended up moving back to Michigan, and she stayed with her parents in Berks Falls, Ryerson Township, to be closer to her parents. And her sons were also in college in Canada, so they stayed with her. So after the divorce, she began dating kind of here and there. She ended up meeting up with Mark, who was an old college friend of Ulla's older brother, Peter. She I think she saw him a couple times, but she very quickly realized that he wasn't the one for her and was it wasn't going to work out.
Okay.
But he lived in the area, so they kind of stayed in touch. They would see each other occasionally, just whatever.
That's why dating in a small town is so awkward.
Yeah. By the time she had moved back, her brother had already passed away, which is really sad. He must have been really young. But it wasn't uncommon for her to hang out with his old hunting buddies who he also went to college with. So
I have
one of them.
friends that are friends with their brother's friends too, or
yeah, for
sure. You're close enough in age.
Yeah, I guess Mark didn't really hang out with them anymore because there were a couple of instances where they were just okay, no, we can't hang out with this guy anymore. So one of them recalled the moment that he realized that he needed to stop hanging out with him. They were on a duck hunting trip in 1994 when this one friend stepped out of the bush to see Mark holding a 12-gauge shotgun directly at him.
Ooh, red flag.
So he ducked out of the way and heard the gun go off 2 to 3 times. Yeah.
What?
So he says in an interview that if he hadn't ducked, he could have been killed by Mark right then and there.
Jeez. Yeah, that's a big red flag.
So yeah, I would say probably stop hanging out with that guy. It's a good time to call off the friendship.
You can't really be mad because it's they still have the gun in their hands, but ugh.
Yeah, just all around not a great guy.
Yeah.
Okay, so she had kind of seen him a couple times, but knew that it wasn't gonna work out. And this is a direct quote from the Globe and Mail article that I read. So during one phone call back in 2015, Thomas, who is another one of the sons, says his mom casually mentioned that Mr. Jones had been leaving unsettling notes in the mailbox. That upset Thomas, who had by this time moved to Taiwan to teach English. It reminded him of a news documentary he'd recently watched about domestic violence. He warned his mom to be careful and that the whole family could be at risk.
Oh, no.
Yeah, so
that's a foreshadowing if I've ever heard one.
Yeah, exactly. So there apparently had been quite a few instances between Mark and Ulla prior to obviously what ended up happening. So there were reports of sexual assault, harassing letters, and unpleasant interactions between the two of them. She had contacted OPP 6 months prior to the attack, but it's really unclear how they actually dealt with it.
So I have dealt with like a similar situation, unfortunately, where I got threatening letters and stuff from it's not even an ex-boyfriend, it was an ex-friend who went fully crazy. And this was in BC, so it wasn't the OPP, but it was an unpleasant experience. Not much came from it. They were like, you can basically do like a protection order, or not a restraining order, they don't call that here, here, but yeah, they're like, you'll have to go to court, it might not happen. It was
just
it's very
ordeal.
Yeah, it's not, there's not a lot available to you to deal with that. And it was, I mean, my university did more than the police did. Like, they separated us because we had classes together, and so they kicked him out of all the classes. They put me in new classes. Like, I felt like I had more resources through my university than the RCMP. Unfortunately, it was so. Like, I believe that nothing. They probably just went like, don't, like, it's basically, it was a lot of the responsibility was put on us. They're like, just stay away from him. Like, I fucking try. He shows up at my work. What am I supposed to do when he's at my work? Like, it was uncomfortable. God. Yeah.
That's so scary.
Yeah. So situations like that is tough. Like, you're trying to do what you can to protect yourself, and there isn't much that they can do. I mean, you can't have someone watching you all the time, unfortunately.
Yeah. Oh, it's just so sad. Okay, so she basically just tried her best to avoid him after that. And anytime they did run into each other, it was never a pleasant experience for her. There was name calling. One time he apparently took a dry shot at her with an unloaded gun as a joke. It's not.
Why do they say it's a joke?
It's not a joke.
It's not a
horrifying.
Joke. That is a attempted murder, and your gun was happened to be unloaded.
Yeah. So in 2017, after a trip to the grocery store, Julia, so the son's girlfriend, Paul, Ulla, and Raija returned home to find Mark sitting in the dark alone in their kitchen.
Do they not lock their doors?
Probably did. He probably just broke in. I don't know. I mean, small town. It's
a lot of people don't lock their doors. Still, it's 2021, people. Have we learned nothing?
Yeah.
I don't care where you live. You could live on an island by yourself.
Yeah.
Lock your door.
Yeah, for sure. At one point, he also forced her to perform sexual acts on him in his car. And she was, I guess, just really concerned about her sons finding out. So anytime she would tell anybody what was going on, she made them promise that they wouldn't tell her kids. Or that her kids wouldn't find out. It's so sad.
Like, I mean, where was her support there? Like,
I know, this poor
Jesus
woman.
Christ, yeah,
so sad. So Mark Jones apparently was diagnosed with dementia shortly before the murders. He told his neighbor that his parents had suffered from the disease and that he, quote, wasn't going out like that. So that's very concerning. Somebody knew that and didn't do anything about it. Didn't tell anybody about it.
Jesus, yeah.
I mean, if they did, nothing came of it.
Yeah. Oh, sorry. I just wanted to say, like, for people who do have those thoughts, there's help. And also, if you are, don't take other people with you. Yeah. Like, I hate when I hear stories on the news where people will drive into traffic, like semis or whatever, and then they end up killing
just completely innocent
people. And sometimes they don't even die, or, if they do die, whatever, but they've killed other people. Like, don't be selfish like that.
Yeah, it's just awful.
Yeah. Or even people who jump from bridges into traffic. You can kill people by landing through their windshield, and then,
or like, even if you don't kill them, like, you could harm them for life. Like the PTSD.
Oh my god, yeah.
Oh my god, and the guilt that they would feel even though they did nothing. Oh, it's just so sad.
My university used to have an overpass, and there would be a lot of people there, I think from the stress of school and stuff, that would threaten to jump. I never saw anyone jump. I've seen people there, and I've seen like the cops and stuff, and it's like, yeah, that'd be traumatizing to see someone do that. Like,
big time.
Yeah,
big time. So the day before the murders, Ulla's son Hans took her out for her birthday. They went out for brunch, and then he debated staying the night at his mom/grandmother's house, but he had to work the next day, so he dropped her off and headed back home. So, oh my god, I feel so bad for him knowing what happened that next day.
It was her birthday the day before, or it could have been that
around
night
then,
and then, oh my god, yeah, like if he was there, he probably would have died too. But the guilt, jeez.
Yeah. So the timing is really unclear, but in the early hours of Thursday, February 22nd, Mark Jones drove to the house carrying a 12-gauge shotgun and a 40 caliber handgun. He shot Ulla first, and then Paul, and then Raija, and then himself.
Oh, so he was like the neighbor that I had commented on. Oh, geez.
Yeah.
Jesus.
So yeah, that's really sad. One thing that I did want to mention that they also had mentioned in the Globe and Mail article that I read, they weren't together and it wasn't like a domestic violence kind of thing, but a lot of the things that happened did kind of go along with that. Like she didn't want anybody to know, she didn't want her kids to find out. So I'm gonna leave just in the show notes of this one just some resources for domestic violence and also like suicide prevention.
Yeah, for sure. No,
all that kind of stuff, because
it's a tough topic.
Really sad.
And it's a reality for some people.
For sure. It definitely is. And especially during COVID too, like,
oh my God,
they don't have an escape right now. So
they're stuck with their,
their abuser.
And that's just awful.
Yeah. Ugh. Yeah. So definitely gonna leave some resources for people that need them. I don't know. I mean, we don't have a huge audience, but if we can help anybody, that would be
anybody. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, you're not alone too. And it's okay to talk about, like, I feel bad that she felt embarrassed. I obviously didn't go through half of that, but I definitely did have somebody who threatened my life and threatened, and that was the one thing that I guess the cop said was a loophole, was he said in the notes, if I was crazy, I would kill you. It wasn't an outright. Yeah. So it wasn't an outright, like, I'm going to murder you. It was like, if I was crazy. And it's like, but he is crazy. Read the rest of the note.
Yeah.
So that's partly why I couldn't get more protection, was like, it's not a real threat. I'm like, I think it's a real threat. And, no one wants
to, if it's not, like, why would you do that? Like, it's not okay.
Yeah. And, it's sad. A lot of women, I'm not the only one with stories like this. And mine ended luckily because I guess he wasn't crazy after all, but not everyone's ends so, simply. And it didn't end right away. It was a lot of awkward, like, we still saw each other at school, and I was scared every single time. And we still lived in the same town because I lived in a tiny little town.
Oh my God.
Yeah. So, hopefully talking about it, if anyone's going through the same thing, don't be embarrassed. I was pretty embarrassed for the longest time because I felt like I was the idiot that got myself in that situation. Like, I ignored every red flag, and looking back at the story, I'm like, those are red flags that were in my face, and I was just swatting them away. Like, no, this is fine.
No, but when you're actually in it, I'm sure it's hard to realize what's actually going on. So
yeah, you're totally in denial. And like, it wasn't even a relationship. It was a friendship.
Yeah.
I wasn't even like, it was a different kind of manipulation. It was weird. It was weird. Yeah.
Oh my God.
That's a tough episode.
It is.
Those were both kind of like domestic abuse kind of things. What can we do to lighten the end of this?
We can talk about your baby.
Yeah. If anyone has any boy names, I don't have a boy name yet. Don't tell me yours because I don't want to steal
I'm not going to tell you
anyone's.
mine.
Yeah.
I'm not going to tell you mine. Ours are great.
I have like a million girl names that I love. I'm not going to say them, but I just have this feeling it's a boy. Like, I want a girl. That's why.
Yeah.
I'll be happy with a boy, but
yeah,
I just have this gut feeling. So, and then of course, boy names are the only thing we're not agreeing on.
Oh,
and it's tough because I don't like a lot of boy names out there, or like they're all tied to like, I knew someone named that.
Yeah, that's the thing. My brother and sister-in-law, they just had a boy in June. And they had the hardest time agreeing on a name too. But they ended up going with Asher.
I love that. Well, mine is Ashley, so I definitely cannot do that.
Yeah, it's a little close.
Yeah. Well, see, the thing is I love, like, if it was my choice, the name I love for a boy is Evan. But Jeff's like really good friend out here is Evan.
Yeah.
Like, and he's like, yeah, it would be weird. I'm like, but I'm not naming it after him.
What about like Devin? Then you can call him Evan as nickname.
Yeah. I honestly, the girl name I have is an E name too. So it's funny. I think of it. And our dog's name is Ellie. So it's like, I have a thing for E names.
Yeah, apparently.
Yeah. But I really like the name Evan. I don't know why. I don't know where it came from. So I might just try and convince him.
Yeah.
Or another boy name I really like is Harrison. Like Harrison.
Oh, we were going to name our kid Harrison. We changed it since then. But that was like one of the first boy names that we like really both liked.
Yeah. I really like that. But I have a thing with names because it's like I don't want unsolicited nicknames, and I don't want them calling like anyone calling it Harry.
Yeah.
So it's not. It's Harrison.
Yeah. Unless he wants people to call him Harry, then
No, I won't let him.
Oh, really?
No, he's not a Harry. He's a Harrison.
That's so funny.
So yeah, boy names are hard because like, and I also, you know, being an Ashley, one of a billion in my classes, I also don't want to pick a name that is gonna be too common, right?
Yeah.
But I also don't want to pick a name that's like so out there that people are like, what the fuck is wrong with you?
Yeah, for sure. I feel like the names that we have picked out are like they're pretty uncommon names.
Mm-hmm.
But the nicknames that we have, because I love nicknames.
I've
never had
nicknames,
but I've always wanted a
Wait, like people
nickname.
don't like call you Chris or whatever?
No, nobody
Really?
ever. I had one friend in high school that called me Chrissy, but I have a cousin named Chrissy, and I'm just like, that's not my name.
Yeah.
So
yeah, everyone, it's funny because everyone just calls me Ash, which is fine. I love it. I don't like, however, when I don't know you. Like, I remember as a cashier, my name would say Ashley, and people like, "Hey Ash," and I'm like, "I don't know who the fuck are you?" Yeah, I'm like, I don't know who you are. Don't call me that. But weird. Anyone who is my friend, fair game, call me Ash, whatever.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's like when people who just try to talk to me, and I'm like, "That's not my name. don't act like we're friends."
Yeah. See, I have a hard time calling people nicknames. Except for Michael. Michael has the literal weirdest nicknames ever. But like I would never think to call you Ash. Like I have a friend named Robin. I would never call him Rob. Like it's it's weird. Like
it's kind of it's like almost too intimate.
Yeah.
Or like
it's weird.
It's really funny because for the longest time, my father-in-law, his name is Danny. Like that is his name. It's not Daniel, it's Danny. And so my, you know, like everyone would call him Danny, and I thought it was a nickname, and it made me so uncomfortable. I just wouldn't call him his name. And then I found out, obviously, like years later, I'm like, they're like, no, that's his name. It's fine. I just thought it was a nickname, and I was like, I'm just, you know, at the time I was like, I'm just his son's girlfriend. Who am I to call him Danny?
Hey,
like
Danny.
I'm his fucking friend. Yeah,
that's so funny.
It's so because like he was named after the Danny Boy song.
Okay,
so that like it makes sense. Yeah. But like yeah, funeral.
Oh, Danny boy.
The vibes.
Oh, it's so good.
Yeah. But like it's so that's another thing is I also don't want to name my kids something that sounds too nickname-ish.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Like I don't know, it's tough. Yeah. I'm trying not to stress out about it until I actually find out like it's assigned sex.
Yeah. Which should be soon.
Yeah, hopefully. I think it's like another couple weeks.
So excited.
I'm hoping it's a girl secretly.
Yeah.
I'm not so secretly. I just want a girl.
That's so funny. When we have kids, we both really want a boy because we're the only chance of Michael's family name continuing on. Like,
oh, really?
He has a sister. She's never gonna have kids. Like, she doesn't want kids.
Well, and then like
so
the women get
like,
married.
Oh my god, we're the only chance of the Davy name going on. He's the only Davy cousin. Like,
really?
Yeah.
See, luckily there's lots of Ghislaines, so
yeah,
I don't have to worry about the generation ending here. But
yeah, there's lots of cousins on his mom's side, but he's the only male cousin on.
Oh no, so there is some pressure.
Yep.
Well, but you also have a history of twins in your family, right?
My brothers are twins. His dad's a twin.
Yeah, so you might have a boy and a girl.
We have tons.
Yeah, you might just get it.
But also,
get them both.
Have twins. We feel like we're gonna have twins. So, also, my life is just like mirroring my mom's because like there's been so many similarities, and she had twins. So,
you guys are absolutely having twins.
Yeah,
if you have it on both sides.
Yeah,
we have like no history of twins, so. And there's only one, so far.
Yeah, I'm just scared because Michael, like, I mean, you've met him. He's 6'5". I'm 5'5". His family, there's very big babies, and I'm just like, oh my god, I'm gonna be destroyed.
Yeah, like so. This is why I think it's a boy because Jeff has a big ass head. It's always been an insecurity of his. I don't actually like see it, but he definitely has.
How nice of you to call it a big ass.
He admits it too. And literally the last ultrasound I had, the tech was just like, oh, that's a big little head. I was like, oh, you see that too? Fuck.
Like, please don't comment on that.
Yeah, I was like, because all the ultrasounds, I'm like, is the head supposed to be that big? Like, it looks too big compared to the rest. Oh, so geez. I have a feeling it's just going to be murder.
Mini Jeff.
Yeah. That's why I think it's a boy, unless the poor girl with a big head. But yeah, that's what makes me think it's a boy, because the big head, and I'm like, oh, Jeff's got a big head. I gotta ask his mom how heavy he was.
Yeah.
Because yeah, he's tall too. He's like 6'1". He's not nearly as tall as Michael, but
Nobody is. Yeah.
Well, like you're short, so maybe it'll
be right in the middle.
Yeah, like I'm 5'3". I'm super short, so our kid's gonna just be average.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. Like Michael's whole family is really tall. My family, like, I mean, like, we're not short people. Like, I'm 5'5". I think my mom's 5'6".
That's dad, like what average?
Yeah,
right?
My dad's like 5'11". My brothers are both 6 feet. So, I mean, we're not short. I mean,
my whole side's
short.
But... yeah, my whole side's short, and I'm fucking a midget at this point. I'm so not a midget. That's insensitive. But I'm 5'4", and I literally have never met anyone that's like my size.
Yeah.
I actually remember back when I was on Bumble BFF, I met a girl, and she just, I guess, like, you don't assume people are going to be short. And when she met me, her first thing she said, she's like, "You're a lot shorter than I thought you'd be." I was like, okay, thanks. Do I give off tall energy? Thank you. Okay, I think we've cheered each other up sufficiently. So. Yeah.
It's a little better than ending on my sad murder.
Yeah. Yeah, we're definitely trying to be a little bit more respectful with the true crime episodes. Mm-hmm. Just because they are dark and heavy, and
they're real people, and they have families.
Exactly. And I think for me, part of the reason why I enjoy true crime and I like talking about it is you also kind of honor these people, and mm-hmm. they're not forgotten, and they're not just this murder that happened, unfortunately. Like,
yeah, that's like the one that I covered was a triple murder suicide.
Yeah.
And there was like nothing online about it. Like, it's crazy to me. Like, these people. Yeah. Oh, that's so sad.
Yeah. Part of me is like, well, it's good because then the nosy people like me aren't, getting what they want. But at the same time, too, I think it's important
for stories to be told.
Yeah. And it's important to know that like this happens. Like, mm-hmm. and that mental health resources should be a lot more available than they are.
And lock your door.
I know a lot of other podcasts say that, but I feel like it needs to be said more. Like,
yeah,
that's actually something too. I saw, to bring up the Night Stalker documentary again. They're one of the victims of him. Apparently, the granddaughter had because it was a lot of the elderly people that he ended up killing, mm-hmm. and so one of the granddaughters of a set of the victims actually had visited her grandparents a couple days before they were murdered, and they had been hearing about it all in the news, and she said to her grandparents, like, listen, it's like a lot of elderly people that are being targeted, like, please lock your doors. And her grandma straight up just like, we're from the Midwest, like, that's just not something we do.
Oh.
And then they were murdered. Like,
that's so sad.
Like, I don't care where you're from, just lock it. It's not worth it. Like, yeah. I have my routine at night is I go to literally every door in the house, every window, and make sure.
Yeah.
We have an alarm system. I mean, that doesn't stop people, but
yeah,
it's just not worth it.
Nope, it sure isn't.
Yeah.
It takes like 2 seconds.
Mm-hmm. Lock your doors.
Lock your doors.
Yeah.
That should be our new outro.
Yeah. Lock your doors. All right. What are we talking about next episode?
I don't know.
I think it's ghosts again.
I think it's ghosts again. Yeah.
So we'll probably pick a random province or somewhere.
Ooh, probably not Manitoba.
Or maybe we should, just to apologize to anyone in Manitoba who's listening.
There's nobody in Manitoba.
Yeah, I think our next one's ghosts. So stick around for a ghost episode.
I think the ghost ones are my favorite.
Because they're so silly, and we can be a little bit more silly about them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I just love ghosts. I have a ghost tattoo.
Yeah. I love it. It's so cute.
My little ghosty.
Yeah. I love it.
Cute.
Okay. All right, guys. Until next time.
Keep on creeping on.